Yes, my first question is concerns about the environment and the survival of the planet itself.
The long-term solution and short-term. Long-term, that's I feel more hopeful. Through education, then better awareness, the nature of very existence of today's world is heavily interdependent. Without healthy environment, the entire humanity face suffering. The better future, happier human community, relying on our own shoulder, we can't blame anyone. So through education, I feel the global economy style, I think they have to make the new sort of adjustment. So these is involve, I think, various politicians or the businessmen, philosopher or thinker or scientist, educationist. I mean, every part of the human society, they have the responsibility. So these are, I think, is long term. So education, make clear on the basis of data. After 100 years, what will happen?
I believe you're right in that education is really the key to virtually all the problems. Right.
Then the market, less of the market. We simply blaming these big corporation, but in our daily life, we always want something new, something more. So everything.
So it comes back to us.
Oh yes, I think everything is related, involved. Everyone related.
Okay, our next question: crime, violence, drug abuse, sexual violence, domestic violence, social frustration, bigotry, and all these negative factors are quite rampant in the world. I mean, these are social issues. And I think it relates to what we were just saying, that it's a consciousness thing, consciousness issue. Do you have any views on what can be done in terms of any solutions?
One thing, I think we are lacking the spirit of self-discipline, and also I think we are lacking responsibility or commitment. Then perhaps one group that's believer, and then another non-believer. To those people who have no belief, no faith, then they, through education.
This is my next point. I think it interrelates. In the West now, since Darwinism, Charles Darwin, has no religious base anymore, no spiritual base, and they have nothing to believe in. And so the West is really scrambling for answers that are just not there anymore.
I believe still there are millions of people who still have faith. First, you yourself should transform, should improve, should change through one's own faith.
And the answers are not outside, but
yes, yes.
within the individual.
So all these problems, they should solve by God as a higher being, without doing nothing by ourselves. I think that's wrong. So once we accept some faith, then according to one's own faith, first implement oneself. A practice of compassion, love, or forgiveness. You see, these things should implement in our daily life through your own faith. Certainly, you see, can improve oneself and improve atmosphere of one's own family. Then through that way, you see, can change, can transform, can make some contribution regarding transformation or healthy transformation in society.
Mahayana Buddhism, one does virtue for the whole of society, for all sentient being. One does virtue for oneself. Do you see a parallel there between socialism and capitalism? Which I believe
This monk, sincere Buddhist monk, are concerned more about the welfare or benefit of the larger community. Capitalism is, I think, purely economy, So naturally, concern only how to make profit. That the socialism, but involve distribution of the or utilize of the money of the economy. Rather, is a how to distribute equally or justly. Fairness, yes, especially those less privileged people in the society.
I'm very interested in this topic because I come from a developing country, Papua New Guinea, and I've been very involved in all this. So. And you see it in India as well.
Yes.
The caste system is exclusive.
And this is gap in India. Of course, we can see in these bigger city, some of these rich family, their life very luxurious sort of lifestyle, and just next the slum, what we call slum. You see, people even you see daily requirement or basic necessity also not adequate and remain hungry. Not only morally wrong, but practically also source of problem. Now, like United States also, the billionaires, the number of billionaires are increasing, but poor people still remain poor. Now, I think, you see, the concept of individualism is also very right. In order to benefit for a larger community and to sacrifice individual right, that also I think extreme. Now look, the individual is part of the society or part of the community. So long run, if the community suffer, individual will suffer. Community become prosperity, individual definitely is get the benefit. Yes. So the individual future or individual interest very much related with the society, with the community. And similarly, individual nation's future very much related with the humanity as a whole. So the importance of serving other, helping other. The Theravada system usually more concerned about one's own liberation. But again, you see, both very much, you see, based on compassion, karuna. So karuna is the basis of Buddhist teaching.
Going back to Siddhartha Gautama himself, his whole precept was that one that answers are internal, are not subject to a god. We're not puppets. We are individuals answerable to ourselves. Buddha developed mind science 2,500 years ago and 2,000 years ago. Whereas the West it's been a major problem. I mean, the West has been subject to major religious oppression because they've had a belief that we're all just puppets of a god.
We may not be puppet, but rather son of God. Some scholar now describe Buddhism is not a religion, but rather science of mind. Philosophy, science of mind. So I think that's true. That's true. The basic Buddhist concept is in order to overcome suffering, various level of suffering, the ultimate source of suffering is one's own, untamed mind, through training of mind, not through prayer, but through practice, through meditation. So in order to transform our mind or purify our mind.
The only real hope for the future of mankind and the planet at large is a consciousness revolution based on the tenets and the philosophy of Buddhism. That Buddhism really has the only answers, as you were just mentioning, internal answers to the problems that the planet's facing.
Usually I call Buddhist culture and Buddhism two things. So I think similar here, some Buddhist technique certainly can be useful without any religious faith to improve the sense of the forgiveness, sense of tolerance, and also a sense of compassion, these things. Then Buddhism, as a Buddhism, that's of course then it relates with faith. So therefore, it is something individual case. To certain people, the Buddhism may not be suitable. The other tradition, such as Christianity, Muslim, Judaism, different Hinduisms, are more suitable because of their mental disposition. But then Buddhist culture or Buddhist technique, not as a religion, not as a Buddhism, then I think everyone can use if he or she feel it is something useful, without touching Buddhist faith or Buddhist Buddhism as a religion. That's my sort of way of approach. I'm always explaining the Buddhist method without touching Buddhism. I usually trying to promote human value. So here, sometimes I feel the Buddhist method, Buddhist reasoning, or Buddhist way of approach to promote or to increase the inner strength, compassion, forgiveness, and wider perspective, as I try to widen our outlook towards oneself, towards problem, towards environment, towards other fellow human being. These I feel without becoming Buddhist, but simply you can adopt some of these sort of philosophy or method.
You can be a Buddhist without being a declared Buddhist. I mean, what I'm asking there is, if philosophy is based on knowledge, and faith is based on faith, not religion is based on faith, what is Buddhism?
But the proper faith in Buddhism, according to Buddhist teaching, according to Buddhist tradition, first you should remain skeptical and carry investigation and experiment by oneself. Then through experiment, through investigation, including scientific investigation, through that way, once you find some answer, find something, then the faith or conviction will develop. That faith is the proper faith, sound faith. And then, of course, the quality of the Buddha's mind we can't prove through reason. Then, in such case, we have to rely on third person's explanation. Then, in order to rely on third person's statement, first we have to check the third person, whether that person is reliable or not. There, the place of the investigation there. So I think Buddhism, generally, some part as a faith, as a religion, but some portion, some aspect as just a philosophy, some part or science of mind.
Albert Einstein said, of all the cultures that are capable of understanding the laws of relativity, he maintained that the only cultures who could really understand that was the Buddhist culture, through scholarship that had been established, thousands of years ago. Do you know anything of that? Can you comment on that?
I had some interaction. With scientists, mainly in the field of cosmology, and then neurobiology, then psychology, and then physics, subatomic physics, including quantum theory, theory of relativity. So one example. So you see the meeting mainly in these four fields with scientists. Naturally, in the beginning, sometimes there's some scientists a little bit hesitate. And then once we started discussion, they simply these fields without touching religious faith. Then these people very often scientists growing their interest and want to know more about Buddhist explanation. The scientific finding in these fields, the latest scientific finding, to us, to Buddhists, very, very useful to know. And then to scientists, the Buddhist explanation in these fields give them some kind of new way to look their own field, scientific field. Then one thing, the one is the physicist, or great physicist, late David Bohm. He expressed that according to quantum theory, he feel quite reluctant to use word of reality. There is no reality as such, something solid, something absolute. Things are interdependent, relative. There is no absolute sort of independent existence there. So things exist due to other factor. So there is no absolute. So that kind of the Buddhist explanation seems to say come to very closer with the quantum theory.
Oh, the most interesting topic. Well, I think we'll have to leave it at that, unless you have any last comments you would like to.
Okay, Buddha. Nothing. Thank you.